we wanted to get you guys on because one, father son, Eddie and Nick, but also National Hockey League broadcasters, and it's so unique to have that type of relationship
Yeah.
inside the game. And you guys worked together last year in Seattle, part of the same broadcast. This year, Eddie's in Seattle, and Nick's moved on to Utah. So I'm curious, Nick, when did you get the broadcast bug, and is it because of Dad?
Mm. It's a great question because I've been asked that a lot.
So it's not a great
So it's
question,
not a
then,
great
Nick.
question.
Then
No,
it's
it's
not. If you
very.
get
It's
asked a
a.
lot, it's not a good question, Nick.
We
Come
should
on.
probably skip it.
But I love
Oh,
I
hold
love
on a
it.
second here. Hey, Nick, what have I told you? You tell somebody it's a great question, and you just get right into it. You don't have to sit there and then go ahead and just come off the top turnbuckle and go, "Hey, Mallard, I get this all the time."
I love it because it's a meaningful topic for me. I don't know if I wanted to do this solely because of my dad. I felt like it's been something that was kind of innate into me, and I think back to when I was growing up and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and just watching the TV and talking. And then when I got to teenage years, my dad knows this well. I would often be in my bedroom playing video games, and as I was playing those video games, I would do play-by-play. I would do color. I would do studio pregame and postgame.
At
And
2:30 in the morning, by the way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There were a couple of those times where my incredible mom would come in and she would knock on the door and she would tell me to pipe down. But um,
What
so
would
I
Dad
think
say?
I think Dad was asleep by then, weren't you? I think you were
Well,
a
Mallard,
couple
I
hours.
was just getting in. That's the way it is.
Oh, yeah, sure. For anybody that knows him, he was asleep for a couple hours by then. But no, I just I feel like this is something that I really was always meant to do, and I love to play hockey. And after 2 years at CC Colorado College playing Division I hockey there, it just kind of came to a decision, and I was like, you know what, I felt like I always wanted to pursue broadcasting, and like I said, whether it's in my bedroom at home growing up or where I'm at now, I think it's just been kind of something that I always felt like when I was done playing that this is what I wanted to move into. And no doubt, I mean, seeing my dad on TV and seeing how he talks about the game and thinks the game, there was never a dull moment in our household to teach the game. And the one thing I tell a lot of people when they ask is, good luck being the rewind and pause buttons on our remote control at home, because those things were wore down to a nub. And so it was always learning and always trying to get better, and just really a lot of fun growing up.
You talked about being a pretty good hockey player yourself. Could you imagine playing in the National Hockey League as an 18-year-old like your dad did?
No, no. And honestly, I'd be the first to tell you, was I, and maybe my dad from a dad's point of view, and me being in, like, I was never the best player. I always tried to work hard and be a good teammate. And eventually, whenever I got into my junior and college years, the role shifted to more of a penalty kill and winning a face off. And you go out there for a big draw in the D zone, and then the team gets out of the zone, and then I get off the ice, type of thing. But I knew that eventually playing professionally was probably not going to be something that was going to be in the future, and that's okay. So I was like, okay, well, I still want to be in the game of hockey. I still love it no less than when I played, and I just felt like the most smooth transition and the best transition I could make was broadcasting. And I don't say this very much, but back in my college days, when there were games when I would play, and I didn't play a lot, there'd be games where I'd be on the bench for a long period of time because I wasn't playing, and I'd be actually like broadcasting under my breath as what was going on. And then I'd kind of get my teammates looking over me like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then the games that
Hey, Mallard and Mr. Shannon, I think I did that the year that was part of the Stanley Cup champion Rangers. I did that. I did it on a bench a few times with old Iron Mike standing behind me, and in the locker room there when I was a healthy scratch for a long time. So yeah, that's He's got it in the blood and he's got it in the genes. There's no doubt about it. And I'll take the secondary assist. We'll give the primary assist to my wife and Nick's mom.
What advice did you tell Nick when he said, "You know what, Dad, I want to be a broadcaster"?
Have great humility. I think that's the first thing I told him. And you know this, Mr. Shannon, from being in, on both sides of the camera, but being behind for such a long time as a terrific TV man. I think audiences, fan bases, viewers, I think appreciate humility. When you make a mistake, you own it, you laugh at yourself, and you move on. And I think that's something that I learned very early with some of the people that I worked with in the game, whether I was doing radio or getting into TV, even while I was still playing in the late 90s. I think that's the one thing. I look at have passion, have fun, all that kind of stuff. And that's, I think either you have it or you don't. I don't think that you can, I don't think you have to make it up. I think some of the best stuff anywhere, like on your guys' show or games that I might do, is when it's organic. That sometimes is the best stuff. Like, it's you're talking about the greatest game in the world, and I think what I tried to help Nick with is just, be yourself, don't be long-winded, and just have great humility when you're doing it, and have fun. People want to be entertained. I mean, I like to think is that we as broadcasters in the game of hockey, and Mallard, you do this when you're hosting there with the BGK, is people are turning on the games to be entertained, right? You take them away from the real world, right? For those fans that are watching at home or wherever they might be, we all have a real world, but you want to entertain them. And I think that's the one thing. I think the first thing I might have sent to them was just have humility. And when you make a mistake, own it, because it's live TV. I mean, Doc Emmerich, the great Doc Emmerich, always told me, look at, once you say it, it's off the Mars, and it's true, and it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be out there. So, as analysts, you get the opportunity to think before you speak a lot of times, and you can always learn from your games and your reps. But I think that's probably the one thing I would tell any young broadcaster is, regardless of the sport or into TV or radio or whatever it is, or even writing. It's having that humility, and I think that's how you build. I think that's how you build great credibility, and I think Nick has done a very good job of it in a very short period of time, especially at the highest level.
And if I could just, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think back to the conversation I had with my dad when I decided that playing was no longer going to be something that I wanted to pursue, and I wanted to switch into broadcasting. And it was a couple of days where I was thinking about how I was going to say it to him, because look, there growing up, there was always a lot of pressure from outside. And I know that whether I wanted to play hockey or be part of hockey or not, is that my mom and dad would have supported me and my siblings, no question. But to have the career that my dad did, and to want to have followed in those footsteps, there was a lot of internal pressure for me to want to do that. And then I felt that when playing was not going to be in my future, I felt like in a way I let him down and I let our family down. But the one thing that really reassured me is that when it came time to have that decision, there was no anger from his part. There was no disappointment. It was like, okay, if this is what you want to do and playing is no longer in the cards, okay, I support you in what you want to do. So, like that was one of the hardest conversations that I had to prepare for. And then when I had it, it was just like, okay, my dad supports me in whatever I want to do. So, look, it's whenever you have a dad that has achieved as much as he has, and how proud of him I am for that, Dad, I am. There's a certain level that you want to live up to, and you want to, achieve everything that he did. But sometimes it's not exactly in the cards. So now you try to, while you're doing your own thing and you're carving your own path, make a transition into something that you do love to do. And I can't be thankful and grateful enough to the support that I've had in that transition from playing to doing what I feel like I've always been meant to do, and that's broadcasting in the NHL now.